convinced. The prior art references cited by the Japanese Patent Office include various games that predate Nintendo's December 2021 priority date, among them Studio Wildcard's Ark, Capcom's Monster Hunter 4, Pocket Pair's Craftopia, a Japanese browser game called Kantai Collection, and Pokemon Go. So what happens now? Nintendo now faces the choice between abandoning the embattled patent application or, which is the more likely next step, trying to persuade the patent examiner based on a modified patent application with amended claims. So basically what they're going to do is add claims to their patent and say, hey, look, this is actually specifically what we were talking about here. And they're going to try to push it through with more evidence on their end, I suppose. Also, when the process at the patent office is over, an appeal to a specialized court named Intellectual Property High Court is possible, right? So even if they amend this and it's rejected, it's still not over. Nintendo can still then appeal to a higher court. And additionally, the Japanese patent prosecution process has even been described as an endless loop, but the fact that the patent examiner is now looking at real world games as opposed to just patent doctor Pal World situation is that I don't know how many people at the Japan Patents Office actually play video games, right? Like maybe they do, and I don't know, like I'm just an American, right? Like what do I know? But if you go through any of these patent documents, it's pretty clear that it is stuffed full of legalese. It's just page after page of all of this like highly technical jargon. And really what it boils down to is just understanding what it actually implies for its use in video games. And that's why the entire gaming community, people like you and I, have been looking at these patents and saying, this is actually insane. This makes no sense at all. There's no way that you can actually file a patent for going on a flying mount that turns into a ground mount. That makes no sense. That's been around since like World of Warcraft Burning Crusade, right? Like it's been a thing forever. But it's hard to like really pinpoint that when all you're looking at is all of these patents from decades past, right? And so now that the patent office is actually looking at real video games and is saying like, oh, okay, well clearly these video games do exactly what Nintendo is claiming to have done, so of course their patent doesn't make any sense. But remember earlier when I said that there's been a lot of misinformation going around and that people are celebrating way too early and that really this doesn't actually have a direct effect on Power World? Here's what GameSpray has to say. For the avoidance of doubt, even if this Nintendo application fails, there is no direct impact on the Power World patent case, period. However, there are wider ramifications. The rejected patent application is a key building block of Nintendo's monster capture patenting strategy that took aim at Power World after its early 2024 release. It has the same parent application as 3117 and is the parent of 5191, both of which Nintendo is asserting against Power World. Just like the applications that led to the patency suit, this application was filed shortly after Power World's release. An issue facing a central member of a patent family is often indicative of validity problems facing other members. The overlap between the invalidity contentions underlying the rejection and Pocket Pair's defenses makes it plausible that Pocket Pair could be behind an April 2025 submission to the Japan Patent Office in connection with this Nintendo patent application. So basically what they're saying here is like, wait a minute, the games that the patent office is now looking at as prior art or evidence that Nintendo didn't actually invent anything here has a suspicious amount of overlap with the exact list of games that Power World submitted back in April, right? Now remember, earlier we said all this came from a third-party submission. We don't actually know who did it, but what they're suggesting here is that it's likely that the person that submitted this prior art was Power World themselves, which again makes this whole thing a David versus Nintendo's armor, and I love that. But here's what's important when it comes to Nintendo versus Power World, okay? A Japan Patent Office decision, much less a non-final one like this one actually is not binding on presiding judge Motoyuki Nakashima, who is handling the Nintendo versus Pocket Pair case. But judges are legally trained and tend to have respect for the determinations made by patent examiners. Pocket Pair might try to point the Tokyo District Court to relevant developments in the Japan Patent Office. In the United States, that would be called a request for judicial notice and can influence decisions. And they go on to say that we assume that there will not be a decision of of any kind in the infringement case before next year. The proceedings have been delayed, presumably due to what Nintendo's third patent in suit is also in trouble. They felt for the middle of litigation. Now, we actually reported on this a few months ago. Nintendo just straight up changing their patents mid-lawsuit, which is like insane that you can even do that. Check out my previous videos covering this topic if you want to see that. But anyway, if you want a visual representation of which patent is actually affected here, I don't speak Japanese, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say specifically, but according to GameSpray, application number 4842, which you can see right in the middle here, is one of the applications being used against Palworld, and application number 3560 is also what's being used against Palworld, and the one that is in question here, that has basically been rejected, and they said, hey, you lack the inventive step, is the one in gray right here. So it is directly tied to the two patents that are being used against Palworld, and so logic would dictate that if this patent is invalid, then the patent that it gave birth to is probably invalid as well. And logically, you would also want to look up the family tree to see where the invalidity actually stems from, because if it's present here, there's a chance that it's present here as well. And so this is why I said earlier that there's a lot of misinformation going on about the Palworld case right now, because technically this patent is not part of the lawsuit whatsoever, but it has implications, right? And I think that's where the misinformation comes from. So I've seen people go on to say like, oh my god, this patent getting rejected is like, it's over for Nintendo, Palworld won, GG everybody, and everyone's celebrating in the streets, right? When in reality, technically this has no direct effect on the case whatsoever. It's just really strong implications for what is about to come in the future. But as this article states, we're probably not going to get an update until next year, right? And we're at the end of October when this news finally broke. So now, just to be clear, let's actually cover what specifically this patent was, right? Like, what are we even talking about here, okay? This patent is one of the patents that Nintendo filed regarding the capturing of monsters in video games, okay? And it's not just the fact that you capture monsters, right? Like that's just merely an idea, and that has existed forever, right? I mean, people in real life have been capturing monsters for as long as we've been alive, right? Like there's two cats in my house. I've captured these monsters. Like, am I going to jail now, Nintendo? Like, what's going on here? Okay, no. This patent is very specific on how you capture monsters in video games. Okay, so the patent claims that first you have to hit a monster with a specific item that will change the analysis, for example, okay? When you paralyze the monster, it becomes incapacitated, okay? And once the monster is in that state, the player then throws a special item referred to as a pod in this specific patent, in other words, a Pokeball, okay, towards the monster to either capture it or to start a final battle to secure it, okay? So that is what this patent is claiming. It is not just the capturing of monsters, it's the battling, it's the weakening, it's the changing of the state of the monster to paralysis or some other state. It's the fact that the monster is easier to capture in that state, and the fact that you then will capture the monster by throwing a Pokeball at it, okay? That's kind of like the top-down layman's understanding of what this patent is, and the patent that was actually rejected here was one that connects the two patents together that are being used in the Palworld lawsuit, okay? Honestly, I think one of the strongest arguments against this patent is Monster Hunter 4, which came out in Japan in 2013. And as you can see here from the official web manual, okay, this website is actually the game manual as presented by Capcom. This is Capcom.com, the makers of Monster Hunter 4. As you can see, they describe the monster stamina can be drained with certain actions and attacks. Furthermore, you can use certain weapons and items to hit monsters with abnormal statuses. So they go on to say poison, paralysis, sleep, stun, blinded, etc. You can also use a shock trap or a pitfall trap to hinder the monster's movement. You can even use trank bombs or trank shots to incapacitate the monster as well. And then, of course, you can trap the monster. Now, all of that sounds exactly like the patent that Nintendo tried to file. And forgive me, I don't know for certain here, so you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but this patent was filed in either 2021 or 2024, right? And so you can't be claiming to have invented these things when you've got a game, Monster Hunter from 2013, that does all of the bullet points on your list of things, which is like, dude, and that's just the easiest one where we can find an official game manual online. Like, there's other examples of games that do this exact same thing. And so really, it's a huge relief that Nintendo is taking a massive L here because they are in the wrong objectively. They are trying to manipulate the entire gaming sphere into obeying with what they want, when in reality, they're just patenting ideas that have been around for decades, which is insane. This is legal warfare, and thank God it looks like so far they are not getting away with it, because the problem with this legal warfare is that if Nintendo can strong arm gaming companies and force them to change their games or not do something similar to a Pokemon game, what that's going to do is reduce the amount of competition across the board, right? We're going to have fewer games like Pokemon, even though Pokemon didn't even invent Pokemon. You understand? Like, there's been monster catching mechanics in games forever. And decreased competition leads to Nintendo and the Pokemon Company getting lazy. And there is no better example of this than Pokemon Legends ZA. We've talked about this on this channel for the past week or two, and the truth is that Pokemon Legends ZA is incomplete. It's lazy. It is unoriginal. The art direction is horrible. The graphics are horrible. The game runs at a terrible frame rate on the Switch 1. The map is small. It's genuinely a joke, right? Like, the core Pokemon fan base they're gonna praise it because they don't think about anything logically. They're just gonna praise it because it's Pokemon, right? But the broader gaming community is all pointing and laughing like, oh my god, they're still playing garbage, right? Because the games look like they came out at the end of the PS2 life cycle, right? Like, I said this before and I'll say it again, with enough tinkering and optimization, you could probably get Legends ZA to run on the Wii, like Wii hardware, maybe even GameCube hardware, right? And earlier in the video, I said that Nintendo is actually furious about what just happened with Pokemon Legends ZA, and that is data just came out of Japan, and it is a bloodbath, ladies and gentlemen. Pokemon got absolutely obliterated in its second week. What we can see here, this report covers October 20th to October 26th, and Famitsu published that Pokemon Legends ZA for the Nintendo Switch sold 195,000 units in Japan, and Legends ZA Switch 2 Edition sold a further 72,000 units for a grand total of 267,000 retail copies in its second week, which sounds like a big number because conventionally it is, but let me remind you, week 1, it sold 1.48 million retail copies. So what does that mean? That means Pokemon Legends ZA saw an 82% sales reduction week over week. Sales actually just collapsed. And I know that I use that term in my titles and in my thumbnails, right? But that is objectively what just happened. Pokemon Legends ZA completely failed to sustain its strong sales numbers with an 82% reduction in sales. So what does this mean? Well, I think the answer is abundantly clear. All of the Pokemon fanboys bought the game on day one, and once the reviews came out and everyone saw how absolutely massive second wave of people who end up picking up the game through word of mouth. That is typically what you would expect, right? If a game comes out, there's a hype period for it, right? And then once it comes out and everyone's like, oh my god, the game is so good, and then word of mouth spreads it even farther, right? And you have, it not the exact same number of sales in week 2, but it's a drop off for sure. But it's not an 82% drop off, right? What actually happened here is the game came out, the fanboys gobbled down the slop and tried to gaslight the entire internet into saying that the game was good, but everyone who looked at this game objectively was like, wait a minute, that looks like trash. I'm not spending my $70 on that game. Absolutely not. Now, if we look at the exact same data for Pokemon Legends Arceus, what you'll see is that in Japan, Legends Arceus sold 1.42 million retail sales in the first week. The second week, it sold 359,000. So again, a huge drop off, but that is a 75% reduction compared to Legends CA's 82%. You'll know that Japan was like the #1 region that was the most hyped for Legends ZA. You can see that it was abundantly clear in the Google Trends search data. And so if the sales numbers are starting to look worse for Japan, and we already see that the sales numbers are worse in other regions in terms of the UK, in terms of Europe, in terms of Spain, and even globally Legends ZA is selling worse, it seems like the trajectory is starting to be fine finalized, and the outcome is inevitable. The game is going to ultimately sell worse than Legends Arceus because the game is worse. I think it's literally the Pokemon fanboys make all of these excuses for, oh, it's this, that, or the other thing. I even had somebody in my comments say it was Trump's fault, bro. I'm not even kidding. People's brains are broken. They said it was Donald Trump's fault that Pokemon Legends EA sold worse, right? And if you want to like extrapolate out some loose correlation to tariffs and people are broke now, like, okay, maybe, right? Maybe. But it's just like people have lost their minds, right? Why don't we just apply Occam's razor and understand that maybe the game sold worse because the game is worse? It seems like a pretty good logical conclusion to come to me. I don't know, but really, I'm gonna keep getting gaslit by the Pokemon community, and everyone's gonna say I'm a hater when I'm just looking at the numbers and looking at the game, and it's like, what universe are you guys in? Yeah, the game sold well, but it sold worse than the most recent games, and the trajectory is clear, and the game is visibly and observably not good. Like, what are we talking about? And this is precisely why we're covering the Nintendo and Pokemon Company legal battle against Palworld, because Palworld has to win. Because if they don't win, Nintendo will get even more comfortable with producing garbage as they can, and we're going to be getting games just like Legends EA, if not worse, down the pipeline because they won't have any competition. And so I wanted to cover that in today's video because I was just so happy to see how hard the sales collapsed for the Japanese market for Pokemon Legends EA, and really that was just the icing on the cake after yesterday's announcement was rejected by the Japan Patent Office, because while this doesn't directly affect the lawsuit, it will absolutely have implications, and of course Palworld and Pocket Pair are going to take this Patent Office decision and bring it to the Tokyo court and say, guys, look, hey, look, I mean, it would be really hard for the judge to ignore this obvious reality in front of them, and so things are not looking good for Nintendo, and thank God for that, because maybe one day, this is my ultimate goal, okay? Here's my ultimate, if you guys want to know my motivation, you want to know why I'm making these videos, is it because I'm a Pokemon hater? No, this top shelf right here, I've talked about this before, this entire shelf is all the older Pokemon games, every single one of them, okay? I've played them all, I've beaten them all, I've completed the Pokedex for probably half a dozen of them, if not more. I love Pokemon. My goal is to wake enough people up to realize that you have to stop spending money on Pokemon if we ever want to get another good Pokemon game again. And seeing these different cracks in the armor of Nintendo fills me with joy, because eventually, maybe the Pokemon fans will actually get what we deserve. It's the most valuable franchise in the world. Can't they try a little bit to release a good game? Like, what is going on here? I want to see their sales collapse even farther. I want to see Palworld walk away victorious in this legal battle. That way, maybe one day in 5 or 6 or 7 years, when Nintendo gets their shit together and they've gotten their ass beat for the last half a decade, maybe they will finally realize that the way to actually succeed as a gaming company is not by having a massive legal department, but it's by actually releasing quality games, which is what they used to do, but they haven't done that for the Pokemon franchise since, I would argue, the 3DS. I thought Sword and Shield was okay, but it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't mind-blowing. It was just fine. Anyway, if you guys made it all the way to the end of the video and you want to see Nintendo lose this legal battle, drop a thumbs up down below. And you might think that you're subscribed, but you're actually not. Double check.
How much the Drake lawsuit was impacting overall music. I could tell that this lawsuit that Drake filed was kind of ruffling some feathers. But you know they love to sue. The secret. What's up? Ladies and gentlemen, it's a shame that we have to spend a damn extra second spamming special chance about a demented man demanding a reprimand on a battle that had him extra slammed. Yes, the suing son of Sandra, the sexy red stepsister, is back in the courthouse begging the judge to forgive her. He, Marilyn Monroe host, strolled back in with a gabbling glow as he told the judge, no, this case will not blow like the wind in the Canadian snow. It will glow like the snow, and I will show the globe that injustices will be exposed for how I lost a rap battle I willingly chose. I study rap battles for a living. So let's break down how La Brianna's back in the courthouse, but first, put the like and subscribe buttons in your mouth. So, Lawbridge and Gentle Grounds, it's looking like Drake is not accepting the verdict that the judge passed it on his case against UMG for their promotion and publication of the song Not Like Us. We've been down this rabbit hole before, but you guys know how much of a threat this lawsuit could be to free speech, to rap battles as we know them, to the future of how artists release music. And what's funny enough is even one of the Gathering Grams greatest blazers, DJ Big Mac Academics,
For the
had
ring.
admitted that
Just
when
send me
he
150.
got thrown out, the entire industry was celebrating. It was like a relief off
Yeah,
their
that's
shoulders.
right.
And they now proceed with business as usual because no one's out here trying to sue over lyrics.
Everybody from the industry hit me today, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I never knew how much
Stress
the
back as
Drake
much as you can,
lawsuit
fam.
was
It's time to bounce and
impacting
get the fuck out of here.
overall music business. I'm not only really talking about only UMG, but people who work at Sony, Warner. I could tell that this lawsuit that Drake filed was kind of ruffling some feathers. It was basically like a buzzer beater. Nick started hitting me from that I ain't talked to in years. They said we back on road. It's lit again.
So even Smacker Diddler was aware that this lawsuit was disgusting to begin with, right? And the entire industry was in celebration when the judge made the right choice. But Drake said, nah, we're following through. Now we're going to look at some important things that the judge had said when she threw out the case. Because yeah, Drake has recently submitted an appeal and he wanted to keep this case rolling. However, if a defamation case in New York gets dismissed, aka gets thrown out, and the plaintiff, aka Drake, appeals it, they can't add new evidence or change the lawsuit during the appeal. So the judge already gave a list of reasons as to why this lawsuit was BS and why it can't go forward to begin with. Drake can't change what he puts in the lawsuit when he's asking the judge to review it once again and keep the court case going forward. The judge studies rap battles for a living. The appeals court only reviews what already happened in the lower court. It checks whether the judge made a legal mistake when they dismissed the case, and even if the plaintiff collected new documents during the discovery phase. I could be wrong, but I don't think those can be introduced on appeal. This is important because how defamation cases work, it's like Drake presents his lawsuit, so he says, like, I was done wrong for these reasons. Kendrick was defaming me, so was UMG by putting out the song. Mrs. Judge, I need you to grant me permission to go through the discovery phase to collect documents from UMG in order to build up enough evidence to have a good case when it goes to court. At the same time, UMG was like, nah, we're not following through on this. Judge, dismiss the case. These are the reasons why you should dismiss it. And how the order of proceedings went is that first the judge did grant Drake permission for his request on discovery. So he was allowed to dig through UMG for all the evidence he needed. But then the judge dismissed the case. So now that Drake is appealing it and saying, no, let's keep it going, he can't use the evidence he collected in discovery. And if you guys remember, he was requesting some crazy things. He wanted all contracts and agreements between UMG and Kendrick Lamar, including all the agreements that reflect UMG's right to approve, reject, refuse to publish, edit, amend, alter, or veto the publication of Kendrick Lamar's musical works. So basically, any power UMG had to nix and cancel any Kendrick music from coming out. They also requested all documents, communications relating to allegations of domestic violence, violence against women, and or other forms of violence committed by Kendrick Lamar from January 1st, 2014 and onward. Because again, in Family Matters, Drake was accusing Kendrick of course, some heinous abuse. I studied heinous abuse in the courthouse. Drake, in his discovery, had also asked for documents and communications relating to Dave Free and his relationship with Kendrick Lamar and Kendrick's children. I studied Kendrick's children for a living. Drake's team had also requested communications and records from UMG executives, including the CEO, Lucian Grange, as well as UMG's internal policies and documents regarding promotion of Kendrick's song Not Like Us. And this is what prompted Lucian Grange himself to write a letter to the judge to let her know that they own a large percent of Drake's catalog. They have no incentive to defame him or ruin his reputation. And the promotion of the song is handled by Kendrick's team. It's not handled by the higher-ups like the CEO of the billion-dollar corporation, UMG. So all in all, this lawsuit, as you guys know, got really dirty, right? Drake was requesting some crazy documents. Lucian Grange exposed some crazy info in terms of how much of Drake's catalog they actually own. And now that Drake is trying to go for round two of this lawsuit, it's good to know that you can't actually introduce any brand new evidence to try and sway the decision the judge already made. The judge studies rap battles for a living. To use that new evidence, Drake would usually have to file a new or amended lawsuit, which he hasn't done just yet. Now we're going to discuss the exact steps that the court will take now that Drake wants to go round two with this thing, what Drake can do to keep this thing pushing forward and ultimately get it back to trial where he can again unbox all those strange red button documents from UMG, Kendrick Lamar, and expose the whole industry, expose Dave Free for being the father. How can he get to that point? And I also want to unpack with you guys a lot of hilarious and very important things that the judge said about the case when she did throw it out. But first, I want to get to some absolutely hilarious and heinous takes from the Obi host when the news first broke that the judge was tossing this case in the trash. Because I don't know if we ever looked at some of these reactions and they're absolutely insane. All right. So I think Jamari, if you guys don't know him, great YouTuber, highly suggest you check him out. He did a dope piece on, all these spiraling that the Obi hosts are doing once this court case got removed and they realized there would be no red button pushed. I mean, now again, Drake is fighting, so we're going to review how he can fight this thing and what this means for Kendrick Lamar, UMG, etc. Well, let's keep it lighthearted for now. Let's look at some of these absurd reactions.
Now, the first stand we have to acknowledge is OVO Mall, who is possibly the biggest and most popular Drake blazer online.
Listen, Drake is smashing this nigga, man. He's punishing this nigga. He's drafting this nigga. It's not even close. The music is way better. The visual is way better.
Like, Mall makes DJ Academics look like a normal-minded person in comparison with his delusions. Because at the very least, Academics could acknowledge the logical issues with Drake's moves and his lawsuit, while Mall claimed that Drake would be up a cool $2 billion after he was done with UMG.
I think Drake is going to ask for something that no artist has ever asked for or received. And it's going to be very interesting to see if he receives that.
As far as money,
As far as compensation for damages, yeah.
and on the lawsuit side,
Absolutely. We talking upwards of $2 billion.
$2 billion.
Absolutely.
Huh? Hey, y'all come look at this.
Well, I'm sure the day the news came out that this case was being thrown out, this guy was crying into his Drake body pillow all night. I mean, I seriously question if he or his co-host Rory had even read the paperwork in the situation. After all, you would think that would be part of their job, is to do actual research beyond Twitter narratives and headlines. So they can speak with a proper opinion on their hip-hop-based platform. Like, every time I talk about a court case in general, which is pretty often, I make sure to read all the court documents because sometimes the narrative online is not even close to what is actually going on. Now, keep in mind that Rory was also of the opinion that this was a groundbreaking crusade for Drake and the music industry in general, and that Drake was doing all of this for Michael Jackson's legacy to fight the machine.
Michael Jackson tried to do this and they stopped him. Let's go for it, man. Like, what's so crazy with me with the internet for the last 7 years, y'all have been justifying snitching with real street. But when it comes to labels this week, snitching is against the rules now.
Like, if you don't get the fuck out of here, bro, Drake obviously did this because his ego was more bruised than a 100-year-old banana. He literally was the machine for the greater part of the last 2 decades, and now he didn't really like it when the ladder got pulled out from under him. I mean, Roy even admits right off the bat that he did not know what this case was even about in the first place.
It's funny to see people's reaction, and again, people still not understanding what the case was about.
I, as someone that thought I understood it, now I actually don't. Because I know he was, from my understanding, initially suing for UMG promoting, pushing, and using bots about a song that was defaming him.
Mm-hmm.
Then the result was, all right, the case is dismissed because there's no defamation. I didn't even think he was suing for that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm just lost. K-Dot, K-Bot, the whole world, y'all win. I'm sorry. I'm an I'm sorry. I was wrong. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Clearly the paperwork that I initially read is not even where the case ended up. Because I thought he was suing UMG for them promoting a song that defamed him.
So the guy clearly did not read the paperwork, and now that he has egg on his face, he acts like, oh, I didn't even care, and I never really did.
It's like the people that are like, this is why he should die.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
The ones that think it did. Like somebody should die on all this shit.
Yeah, and his co-host should commit. And it's like,
Yeah.
because he likes a rapper that you don't.
So you see, this is gaslighting at its finest, right? So Maul, I mean, Roy's not as bad as Maul, but Maul, let's start with him. He was acting like this was not just going to be a red button exposing the whole industry, but this was going to make Drake somehow $2 billion. Do you understand what that would mean? I mean, Rory didn't even know that this case was about defamation to begin with, right? But in a defamation case, you got to ask for damages, right? Like, if you're the one filing the lawsuit, you got to be like, hey, judge, they did something wrong to me, and if I could prove it, you gotta grant me a reward, and they have to pay it. Maul thought that reward would be $2 billion. Do the math with me for a second. How much money do you think Drake, as a business, his music, has generated for UMG throughout the entirety of his career? Even if you say something absurd like $5 billion, keep in mind Spotify pays around, let's say, $5,000 for every 1 million streams. Drake has earned about 122 billion streams on Spotify. That would mean in total, just on Spotify, his music has generated about $610 million. When you actually look at how many total units across the albums, singles, and features that Drake has amassed throughout his entire career, according to the RIAA, which is the official source for certifying songs and albums as platinum and gold, he's pushed 329 million total units. Now that's albums and singles. So let's say that's an average of about $5 per unit, right? Because an album maybe generates you about $10, but a single will generate you only $1. So let's meet in the middle. 329 million units times $5 equals about $1.645 billion. And that includes all his Spotify numbers already, right? And then let's say Drake makes UMG money through his touring, his merch, etc. Let's add another $1 billion on top of that. Let's be very generous here.
Oh, it's just too good. Oh,
Now you're sitting at, on the very high side, around $2.5 billion. And again, I can't emphasize enough, I'm being so generous with these numbers. So with all that generosity, Drake has still generated UMG only $2.5 billion. What in the hell makes Maul think they would somehow owe Drake $2 billion because they hurt his feelings with a song? I mean, and this would be like the case where Drake would have to prove to the judge that the song completely destroyed his reputation. Like, he can't put out another album again, the whole world thinks he's a PDF. No one will buy a single song from him in the future going forward. So UMG would have to make up everything that he has already, produced for them, all the money he's made for them. Even in that wild case, and even in the wild case that Drake has somehow made UMG $2.5 billion, it would still make no sense that UMG would pay Drake out $2 billion. Do you understand the numbers behind this, how stupid claims like this are? And then it's also insane how Rory can not even read the lawsuit, not even know that it's about defamation to begin with, and make egregious claims like this is some Michael Jackson level industry exposing, shattering initiative that Drake is taking to completely reshape how the music business is ran. He didn't even realize that the judge didn't throw out this case because Drake couldn't prove that, UMG was using shady tactics like deploying bots or using payola. No, step one of even getting to that point is proving that by releasing the song Not Like Us, UMG destroyed Drake's reputation through defamation. Rory didn't even know that this was about defamation, that Drake sued because his feelings were hurt. But it gets even worse.
At the end of the day, Not Like Us was a smash hit that had gasoline poured on it, just like any other song that's going crazy. And of course, the promo cycle for a hit song is very different than a regular single. I mean, that is simply business 101. It would be like a restaurant not advertising the best item on their menu. Like, I can't tell you how many ads I've gotten for those Arby's steak nuggets.
Eat him in your mid-sized sedan. Eat him on your bed. Or eat him at the movies, you sneaky boy.
Or who remembers the Popeye's chicken sandwich craze? So for Roy to sit there and play dumb is just downright hilarious. But hey, at least the guy admits that he was clueless. Small, on the other hand, is still double-handed glazing Drizzy's glizzy.
The people have to know that his lawyer, his team, they're going to appeal this and take this to another level. I don't know if people know that. Like, this is
Of
not.
course,
This is not over.
So
Like,
I mean, should we just let it go?
no, see, no,
But
no,
at this point,
no. Why? But would you? If you and your team, your lawyers had things in your possession that prove what you're saying is correct.
it depends the judge, and that's why the appeal process exists. And didn't they reveal everything? Because that was also something I saw on the OVO stand side of like, nah, he purposely was trying to lose the first one so he could reveal more in the appeal. And I was like, well, why wouldn't you just
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Just give
I'm not speaking the shit. I'm speaking the fact.
Yeah.
Like real things. Like I don't. This is not old.
Oh yeah, I'm sure his lawyers withheld key information that would get this case to court.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I really do hope that Maul understands that new information cannot be presented in the appeal process. But hey, that would actually take some level of research to be done on his points. It's also beyond clear to me that Rory is downright scared and kind of has to tiptoe around how he actually feels around OVO Maul, at least in regards to Drake.
But if he has all this info that we don't know about, why the fuck did he say it in the first case?
To me, I do not think that Rory is a stupid person, but it's kind of like when you're chilling with your friends who's way too far deep down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole, maybe a couple of beers deep into the night, and he starts spouting off about something that you know is complete horseshit. Like sometimes you just have to let him rock to maintain the friendship, or in this case, to keep those podcast clips coming.
Yeah, so I don't believe that this is over. I don't believe that Drake and his team and his lawyers are letting this go. I do think that this is going to another level. Universal knows, or they know. You know, the internet can say, "Oh yeah, I told you he lost it." Ask Universal if they think this is over. Like, just ask somebody at Universal if they think that this case is over.
Well, I think Drake's lawyers have already talked about, like, obviously saying that we'll file an appeal. So
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So, you know, the blogs and, you know, content creators can react and make videos. Oh, all of that stupid, look stupid, da da da. It's like, okay, I mean, but this is not over. Like, yes, this judge dismissed it and, you know, dismissed the case in that court. But this is not going to another level. And that only speaks to, again,
I'm gonna go to first
what
watch
I'm
for,
looking at. He obviously knows something. His team knows something. He has great lawyers. Yeah, it got dismissed in that court. But again, this is far from over.
Have fun.
We haven't heard the last of this lawsuit with Drake versus Unity.
So what I will give Maul here is that he's right in that this is not over. Drake did file the appeal, meaning that the judge has to re-review this case. We're going to touch on that later in this video. But ultimately, to try to paint the narrative that Drake even knows what he's doing with this case, and that he's got a trick up his sleeve, and that UFG is, turning over their shoulder to look at what his next move is going to be, is downright flat, delusional, lazy, because Drake presented all the facts he had in court. Like I said before, no more evidence can come forward unless the judge has some sort of change of heart and accepts Drake's appeal and then it goes to trial. Then the ball can get rolling. But if the judge already laid out the facts in terms of why this case is flat out BS and Drake can't present any new facts and he doesn't have any new facts, what is going to change here exactly? You'll see what I mean later in this video. But yeah, it's sad because I don't think Rory, again, like Jamari said, is a dumb person, right? It's just that Maul has created an entire brand around Blazing Drake. And I gotta ask you guys, like, the Joe Budden podcast, obviously it's huge. I have a huge video on Joe Budden coming soon, so stay tuned. But yeah, they're massive, right? They're generating $1 million a month just on Patreon alone. Ever since Rory and Maul split with them, do you guys think their influence would be as massive as it is if it wasn't for the meme of Maul Blazing Drake? Like, would their podcast be relevant today if it wasn't just known for Maul, again, going through these crazy rabbit holes, or doing anything he could to defend whatever Drake does? It seems like nowadays their name only comes up when Maul is having some crazy take about Drake. And Rory just lets it slide for, I don't know what reason. I mean, Joe had some crazy takes back in the day, and it seems like Rory would challenge him more than he does Maul. Do you guys think Drake pays them? Do you think it just aligns with their best interest to keep the content straight Drake blazing because that's what keeps their name relevant? That's what keeps them in the discussion. And I mean, ultimately, Maul emphasizes that Drake is not just keeping this ball rolling with this lawsuit to save face, right? Because obviously, the fact that he lost is a horrible look for him when he made all these bold declarations and literally, like, this stuff was being discussed on the news. That's how big it got. He's not still fighting in court to save face. Maul thinks this is only over when Drake says it's over, not when the federal judge says it's over. Lawry can keep pissing down money down the drain and spending it on lawyer fees so they can continue showing up in court and fighting a giant corporation like UMG, who likely has way more expensive, fancier lawyers. And not to mention the most.
This is my best starting yours today. YouTube.com/DreamJumper.
I see these up all the time, but they're totally fake. But I downloaded them because they're cheap. I think I downloaded the wrong one.
What the fuck?
Part that he's going up against already.
I played a game like that? Nah, bro. I love them answering the controller. Excuse me?
is it going to continue to take Aubrey's money from his tantrum that he continues to throw? And to suggest that he has better legal representation than a massive corporation is downright laughable.
So, Maul, if he loses the appeal, then what's your stance if he loses the appeal?
My stance as far as what?
As far because you're saying like this is not over, this is over. So this is not over. When do you think it'll be over? Like if he loses the appeal, is it over then?
I think it's over when Drake says it's over.
What to say, the moderator on the show, Damaris, is always the most researched, logical person on their podcast. There was a couple of instances here where she kind of tries to hold Mo's hand and guide him towards like logic and reasoning.
All I know is if you see somebody adamant as Drake is right now, there's a reason. If he's not bowing out, you can't be like, nah, bow out, you lost back. There's a reason he's not.
And I've seen some of the rhetoric that he might not be backing down because it's an ego thing, right? Like I have to prove that something was done. If I don't prove that something was done and I lost, like I don't like that. Like something has to be done about this. Like that's what I'm saying in our business. Like
so you're saying other people may think that he's not backing down because he doesn't want to bow out or to save face, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I don't think this is that.
Yeah, so this guy is really just in deep denial. It's actually really sad. I almost feel like it's a mental illness at this point. He also suggests that UMG should have like self-censored, not like us, all to appease Drake because he had been their cash cow for such a long time, as if that was not a symbiotic relationship.
Again, because I'm not sure everything, again, that Universal did, but I would definitely make sure that we're not funding this song, calling our top artist something that we believe he's not. I wouldn't jump behind it and promo that, put all the entire building behind that message. If I'm the CEO of that label, I would do that. Just because it's a level of, I think, loyalty that we owe this artist.
So yeah, this guy is a sore loser in denial, just like his overlord.
And this is the dumbest claim. I've seen the Obi hoes use this excuse like, oh, calling him a PDF was drawing the line. But there was no line drawn when UMG treated Drake the exact same way with his own diss records, right? Like, they're talking about, oh, Kendrick ruined rap because he made diss songs, hit songs, and now everything is about dissing. And what happened to rap battles that were just kept, on the battlefield, not kept on the DSPs, on the streaming platforms? But it's like, Drake did this approach already. Matter of fact, Drake concocted this formula. He made the hit song, this song, with back-to-back. The night that release and it became a huge hit, he rented out the hotel room above where Meek Mill and Nicki Minaj were staying in Toronto, and all him and his friends were blasting that song the entire night for Meek to hear. He mentions this on his song Summer 16. He says, like, we were up there turning up the whole time you were going to bed, or something like that. He was happy to use the machine, not just to push his Scorpion album when his face and his music was plastered over every Spotify playlist to the point where Spotify users requested refunds because they were getting Drake music on jazz playlists. No, more importantly, he utilized that same machine that he is now suing over to his advantage in multiple beefs in the past. He even got the story of Adidon taken down.
But you know they love to sue.
Or maybe it wasn't Drake. I shouldn't say that. Everything is all alleged here. But what we do know for a fact is UMG had taken down the story of Adidon off of YouTube. We also know that when Pusha T was trying to drop his Clips album under UMG, under Def Jam, which is owned by UMG, there was that Kendrick feature that didn't even diss Drake. But UMG still wanted Pusha T to censor that verse because they were in discussion with Drake trying to reach a settlement before he actually took this lawsuit to court. This was like a month after the beef had ended, right? My point is, Drake has used this machine multiple times to his favor. Most importantly, with the beef itself, when he made those vile accusations against Kendrick Lamar on Family Matters, that song was also placed all over different playlists on Spotify, all over DSPs. Matter of fact, throughout the week of the beef, Spotify ran promotional campaigns where they had billboards in Times Square that said something like rap is competitive. Academics was on live streams with one of the higher ups at Spotify before Not Like Us blew up to massive proportions, and they were discussing how all the other diss records were performing on Spotify, on the streaming platform. Drake had no problem with that until it didn't benefit him any longer. And I think that's why he strategically put the Hard Part 6 only on YouTube, because A, he didn't want that to stain his legacy if it had a horrible public perception and it just lived on streaming platforms. But also, he probably knew that Not Like Us was a hit, and any smart record label would put money behind a hit no matter what's being said in the song. And he probably knew he would file this lawsuit. So strategically, the song where he's, responding to the Not Like Us allegations, he avoids putting it on streaming platforms, so he can now run off with the narrative. Look, guys, I think rap battles should exist outside the streaming platforms. We shouldn't capitalize off this, right?
I study rap battles for a living.
It's stupid logic. Why should UMG censor Not Like Us? That's what Maul was implying in that clip, that they should censor the song because it hurt Drake's feelings and his reputation. Do you understand the type of standard you're setting if you let your record label block songs, massive cultural hits nonetheless, because they hurt your feelings? It'd be one thing if Not Like Us was flat out saying, Drake, word for word, you are a PDF, and that song completely destroyed Drake's reputation, but he still has the machine behind him. UMG still pushed What Did I Miss? They still pushed Nokia. All these Drake songs. The whole Sexy Sleepy Song for You album that he dropped with Party Next Door. UMG was right behind that, promoting the hell out of it. He was all over all the streaming platforms. His reputation is not damaged. He's still able to put out music the way he wants. It's just that people look at him differently only because of the moves he made and because of how much better Kendrick performed throughout the battle that Drake willingly participated in, which is what the judge emphasized. But Maul is too delusional to see that, so he thinks UMG should now block Not Like Us off of streaming platforms. Then what about Family Matters? Should we just erase all diss tracks off of streaming platforms? What about Ether and Takeover? What about Hit 'Em Up? Nah, let's get that off streaming platforms. I'm sure Biggie would have been really mad at that song today in 2025 and would have filed lawsuits over it for sure. Let's just remove all these songs. But believe it or not, lovers, that's actually all worse. Outrage when the judge threw out this case.
The ones handling this loss even worse have to be his fans on Twitter, as they have spent the last couple of years promoting propaganda about this case, acting like Drake was due for a big win with this apparent red button. And now that the case got thrown out, they have spent the last week using AI to create their sick fantasies regarding Kendrick and Drake trying to save face.
You keep promising Dave's son you'll be there, and you never are.
I'm a bad father.
Chat conversations they've been having because these guys are crashing out over the case being dismissed, and they are in turn now turning their backs on each other.
Think about it, K-Bot. That's why I do what I do to you niggas every day. That's why we put belt to ass to you niggas. Guess what? Y'all run around this bitch throwing rocks and hide y'all hands. Ain't no throwing and hide nothing. Walking y'all down. Every chance y'all motherfucking get. Because guess what? It's not hip hop, and y'all can't talk hip hop without the owls. Because guess what? Owls been running hip hop for 16 motherfucking years. Huh? Nigga, Argo been on top. Argo been running shit. Argo #1 album. At the #1 album. At the #1 album.
Oh, and that's why it's fucking problematic for you fence sitters, for you, I'm a Drake fan, but God forbid you come tell me some shit on the timeline and tell me chill out or calm the fuck down. You can go eat a whole dick. Don't ever call me out, because all that's gonna do is get you blocked or get me to crash out on you. I don't give a fuck. I'll end this quote.
I had 2 arguments today with 2 I'm a Drake fan but motherfuckers about your AI shit. I say, so the fuck what? We gonna keep sharing. We gonna keep this in the ops. We gonna keep doing it. And they like, oh, well, it's making Drake fans look bad. So who came out, son? We don't give a fuck about you. I'm a Drake fan but niggas. Don't say shit to me about what I post, about what I repost. Guess what? Anytime members want to post a motherfucking AI, a Kendrick, motherfucking, in a motherfucking bathing suit, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna like it and I'm gonna repost it.
It is very hard for me to wrap my brain around the idea of being this terminally online. Like, I might actually have to fund a psychological study into the minds of these sick people. I mean, just listen to this grown man. He actually has gray in his beard, talking about how he was out here putting in that virtual work for Drake.
Y'all was owls that I did not see on the timeline last year when this shit was living. I don't give a fuck about y'all.
It is always the ones that wasn't on the arm with us fighting nothing. It's ones that was sitting in the group chat cowering in the corner that want to say, "What y'all doing? Why would you do that?" Like, you never did nothing. I did multiple shit that Drake have seen that he respects that I done fucking represented for the boy or not. Nigga, I done just did a lot of shit. We don't know you, nigga. So until you put some belt to ass, until you do something that
some work
is respected, then you can't tell me what the fuck I can do. You can't tell me what's good and bad because you never did nothing.
Nothing.
I have Twitter accounts with more fucking followers than some of y'all. Don't ever come to me. And
I got docs behind this Drake shit. Nigga, we still don't know you. So you can't tell me what the fuck I do, man.
They don't know what it's like to actually be out here. Like,
this was an everyday thing last year. We had to deal with the Grammys, the pop out, motherfucking nigga, the whole summer, and not like us going
Motherfuckers
everywhere.
can act like I'm in the fucking lawsuit for better or for worse. I don't give a fuck out. Nobody on this motherfucker can ever tell me nothing.
Talking about something. It's making Drake look bad. Who gives a fuck? Shut the fuck up and get active. Get out these group chats. Get on this timeline.
Yeah, it's probably just the funniest shit I've ever heard. I mean, I know there's a lot of Drake fans out there who are normal minded, who will continue to listen to his music and support him in a normal capacity, but I really don't think that these type of people understand how much damage they actually do to his brand. Like, I will not to you guys, if I spent 18 years raising a kid and this was the outcome, well, y'all might as well just take me right off the earth that day.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. This is a cult, all right? Like, I'm responding to people on Twitter today, a year and a half after this battle, and 2 weeks after the judge threw out Drake's year-long lawsuit about the case. They're still making up fan fiction about Kendrick Lamar and his fiancee Whitney. At 2 p.m., nonetheless, on a Wednesday afternoon. They don't have anything better to do. And it's like, I wonder how many of them have actually even spoken to any members of Drake's team. Like, do they have financial incentive to be doing this, or are they really that deranged that they stay up day and night defending this man who doesn't know them, who doesn't care about them, and who probably doesn't even like them because they just make him look worse online? I mean, Academics is one of these people, right? Academics has been so desperate to defend any move Drake makes that he actually makes Drake look like fool sometimes. It actually gets Drake into trouble. Academics for the past few weeks has had private investigators outside his house, outside the house of his employees, who have been asking him about their connection to Drake and Stake. Drake was just roped into a lawsuit of his own with Stake and Aiden Ross for using quote-unquote house money. And I dug up an old clip where Academics flat out admits that Drake is getting paid to be on live streams promoting this stuff to you, all because he was trying to defend the fact that Drake went on a live stream with XQC, who's also paid by Stake, instead of Drake going on a live stream with Academics.
Those 3 big backs are for me. Them 2 big ass for me.
My point is that they're so desperate to defend Drake that they end up making him look worse. But you know who made him absolutely look the worst of all was none other than the legendary Judge Vargas, who Drake is trying to now go round 2 with. So let's understand what the judge had actually said and how she came to the decision that this lawsuit was complete BS and needed to be thrown out. So initially, Drake is suing over 3 main things, right? Defamation, harassment, and deceptive business practices. But all of these 3 things ride on proving the defamation claim first. If you can't prove you were defamed, the entire lawsuit crumbles. So UMG fired back, saying that Kendrick's lyrics obviously were protected artistic expression, part of a long tradition of rap battles filled with exaggeration, metaphor, and bravado. They asked the judge to dismiss the case entirely before it went to trial, and the judge agreed throughout the lawsuit and explained in detail why none of Drake's claims met the legal standard to move forward. The judge emphasized that Drake's entire lawsuit focused solely on Not Like Us. In the lawsuit, Drake claimed that UMG had the power to block or edit the song, but chose not to because controversy meant higher profits. UMG countered that by saying Drake provided no concrete evidence of any secret marketing schemes, any fake streaming manipulation, emphasizing that all of Drake's arguments relied on speculation, no verifiable proof, and that Kendrick's lyrics, again, were artistic opinions. Now, ultimately, a valid lawsuit has to present real, factual details. No assumptions, no vague accusations like Drake had in his lawsuit. And in this case, the standards were clear. For defamation, there must be a false statement presented as fact that damages reputation. For harassment, which is another claim in Drake's lawsuit, there has to be recognized civil law allowing such a claim, and New York didn't have one. And for the deceptive business practices claim, of course, again, the bots, the payola that UMG did, according to Drake, there had to be proof that the public was misled, either about the success of the song or in terms of how often they saw the song all over their platforms, whatever the case is, not just that Drake was personally harmed. And the judge was emphasizing that this early on, it wasn't a trial. She wasn't deciding who was right, who was wrong. She was only deciding whether Drake's claims actually described any legal violation. The judge studies rap battles for a living. The judge ultimately agreed that because Not Like Us was part of a public rap battle, the audience understood it as entertainment, not a factual report. Even if UMG knew the lyrics were harsh, that didn't make them legally defamatory. Opinions and creative expressions are protected by what? By the First Amendment. And the judge added that promoting or distributing a song that contains protected artistic speech can't be considered defamation either. Because of that, the defamation claim was dismissed for good. Then there was the harassment claim. Drake said UMG's behavior amounted to harassment, that by releasing and promoting Not Like Us, they intentionally caused him humiliation and emotional harm. But the judge pointed out that New York doesn't allow private citizens to sue for harassment. Those laws only exist in criminal court, where the state prosecutes, not individuals. And even if civil harassment claims were possible, UMG's conduct still wouldn't qualify. Harassment involves repeated, targeted behavior, like stalking, threats, direct communication, not the distribution of a song. UMG didn't contact or threaten Drake. It simply released music made by one of their artists. So that claim, too, was dismissed entirely. Now here's the one you guys are most interested in, the third and final claim in Drake's lawsuit, and that involves deceptive business practices. Drake accused UMG of breaking consumer protection laws by using bots, paying influencers, and manipulating charts to make Not Like Us appear more popular than it really was. Now, the judge explained that the law Drake cited, New York General Business Law 349, protects consumers, not artists or private business partners. So to win that claim, Drake needed to show that the public was deceived in a meaningful way and suffered harm as a result. And he didn't do that. His complaint was built on speculation. It didn't name influencers. It didn't provide evidence of fake streams. It didn't show proof of any misleading campaign. Even if UMG had promoted the song heavily, that's normal marketing, not fraud. The judge also said the lawsuit wasn't about consumers being tricked. It was about Drake's personal reputation. So the statute didn't apply. So that claim, too, was dismissed in full. And so because none of these claims met legal standards, UMG's motion to dismiss was granted in full. And the case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning that Drake can't file the same claims again in this specific court. In her conclusion, Judge Vargas acknowledged the cultural weight of the rap battle, but she said that the law must draw a line between art that offends and art that's illegal. Under American law, creative expression, even when it's damaging or controversial, remains protected. And I think the two biggest things of this entire, lawsuit getting dismissed, the two best things going forward is the fact that A, freedom of speech is protected because the court said Not Like Us was artistic expression, not defamation. So there's no new precedent going forward about how rap needs to be treated in court if it escalates to this point ever again in the future. And the claims about deceptive marketing had no solid evidence, aka all those OB hoes yelling and screaming about Kendrick or Dolce or TDE using bots. When Drake actually pulled up the court to really get to the facts and push the red button, the judge made it clear there was no evidence that actually proved that. So what happens now? Well, Drake spends more money on more lawyers to file a notice of appeal, which he just did. So here's what happens next. He's basically telling a higher court called the Second Circuit Court of Appeals that he disagrees with Judge Vargas's decision to dismiss his case. And over the next few months, Drake's lawyers will write a long legal argument explaining why they think the judge got it wrong. For example, that she misread the law on defamation or free speech, and UMG's lawyers will write their own response explaining why the judge was right to throw it out. And now a group of 3 new judges, not Judge Vargas, will review everything. They might schedule a short hearing where both sides argue their points, and those judges will then decide one of 3 things. Number 1, they'll either agree with Judge Vargas and keep the case closed. Number 2, they could disagree and send it back for further steps, possibly reopening the case or letting certain claims move forward to trial. Or number 3, they could partially agree, meaning that some of Drake's claims will stay dismissed while others will get revived. Because remember, there's 3 claims. There's the defamation claim, who claims his feelings were hurt over Kendrick's lyrics in Not Like Us. Number 2 is the harassment claim. He claims that by UMG actually releasing and promoting the song, it caused him actual harassment. And number 3 is the deceptive business practices claim, where Drake is basically accusing UMG of using bots, fake streams, payola, paying influencers to promote the song and make it look like a much bigger success than it actually was to convince the public. Now, if the case is sent back, it would end up going back to Judge Vargas, the one who initially threw out the case. But she would have to follow the appeals court instructions. She can't reopen the case on her own, only if the higher court orders her to. So as of right now, Drake's lawyers pulled the trigger on round 2, baby. So I guess we'll still be here, still talking about this BS, still biting our teeth to see if free speech will be compromised or if the bots will be exposed. As always, let me know what you guys think. And I'll catch you in the next one. I study rapaholics, son of a dude.
This was never about anything. It was always about control. Pickaxe isn't spreading. It's being engineered. This since the movements. Malignant and watching. Pushing the galaxy to the brink of war. Twisted by time. Rolling the waters covering war to the sea. Outline. You trade. Move deep into the web and discover the truth.
Welcome back to the most professional Stoneground 2 with a rank 1 Terran in the world. And alright, it's Team Liquids left. Facing off against Cyril's greatest stunt double, the Rocky Zerg in the blue. We have Solo in a best of 5 Terran versus Zerg tournament grand finals. And yes, we have a new balance pack, some new maps. The same way me begging you to smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. And we got the algorithm, we'll give it what we 1,731 likes on this video and this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't. Let's say do it not. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully, it's about to get just a little bit better than the first drones and lings as the Reaper comes across the map, gnawing their teeth on the destructible rocks there to block any sort of bunker rushes. But we're well past that phase. And actually, drone slipping past the first Reaper will allow Solar to get his third base in a relatively timely fashion. Though, if Clem spots it, he will know that Zergling speed is a slight bit delayed. And if anyone was going to take advantage of that slight bit and somehow turn it into a fight, it's going to be Clem. Jumps into the main on the one. Oh, I love that. Here on Throne of the Dunes, one of our map contest maps, even a little, broken part of the edge where the Reaper jumps out of the mag. But Reaper spots the third base timing, double checks it. Yeah, that's pretty early. I think he saw it. It didn't register the health bar. Came back. A double take even for the former world champion. And behind it. Now, will that prompt a Hellion one? I feel like Terrans just run by with their Hellions 10 to 20% of the time to keep Zergs honest. But for the most part, Zergs have no choice to keep themselves honest, as there's almost no way to really hide information unless you're somehow magically able to lure that Reaper in, which the Queens will always try to do and are rarely capable of. But 3 of them, the Queen's Guard bounces, he wants it, but the Brenda bounce puts them physically in the way of a potential run by, lays down a couple creep tumors. And I think the early aggression potential waning by the second. But the Liberator is the choice. No Banshee, no Cloak Banshee, no Speed Banshee this time around, but the Liberator instead, the cheapest option while still having deadly potential. And, well, one drone, nice dodge there into a spore product. So they're making sure it can't be picked off so easily. Very aware of his vulnerabilities. Without Zerglings below, now Zerglings speed to die. But he only has so many of them. So if the Hellions do choose to run by, well, he just has to hope he's in position to die. Our Liberator has completed flipping over already a reactor up. That's going to be for the Bears. As them spools up the production, so far only able to work across the edges. 4 more Hellions coming in. 8 in total. This is a dangerous force to lead into the potential bioplay beyond it. Solar at only 48 rounds, but he has a Spore Crawler in position and Queen's right next to it. Now coming right up the center, here we go. She's been waiting for this opportunity, but the Zergling count is damn high. The Queen's right behind it. Incinerates the tree alongside her left. Not going to be deterred, incinerating more Zerglings. Down to 4. Queen gets on the rack, goes towards the natural. Body blocking so far, great split out of Solar. And Clem was telegraphing this like it was 1888, but only 4 drones dead for 8 Hellions and a Reaper. Solar could tell he wanted. Alright, he had more than enough Zerglings. He had the Queens in position, and Clem couldn't help himself. And now, Solar in a completely comfortable position to just drone up, and Clem actually, that's not a wall, right? Clem boldly going outside. What? It's like, well, no, you don't have a Banshee. There's no Banshee. Is the Liberator dead? The Liberator died as well, unceremoniously, off camera. Or it looks like the actor couldn't pick up the next season. But so usually you'd have a Banshee back at home to defend, and that's why you could just take a third as Terran, and the Zerg can't really do anything about it. When you go for a Liberator, and especially when you lose that Liberator, you lose the ability to easily drive back small amounts of Zergling. So now Solar's already up to 65 drones. He's got the double upgrades right in line with Clem's 1-1. He's got a 4th hatchery nearly completed, and things are looking good for the Korean Zerg. But it's not like Clem has been slowed down economically. Make no mistake. All Solar has done is make sure he's in a stable position getting into the mid-game. But it is not something you can just jump into a victory from very easily. Hydraless Den is on the way. The choice for the mid-game brawler strategy of Hydra, Ling Bane. It cuts into your hive timing, but so does dying outright to Marines. Meanwhile, the Queens, they drive back the Marines for now. Clem, building up back at home, continuing STD production. He's got the armory on the way, as well as a second factor. So now look at the upgrades. On the right side. Combat shield, 1-1 across the board. Baneling speed is about 30 seconds out. Hydraless range has begun. But for now, Clem going to be rebuffed after taking out a few creep tumors, and Solar doing a great job of pushing the creep across the map. But another, the double. Some Widowmon will burrow. No dribbling flaws, though I think he's going to be working for it momentarily. Another drop. The Queens on their own to deal with this, but so far, plenty of energy to drive it back. And the Queens going to try to target. It's 1. Meanwhile, the secondary drop, he's still keeping so much pressure on the Frenchmen gunning down the Queens 1 by 1. A revolutionary tactic. But the Hydra popping out takes out the first one, medevac. That was like too much necessarily right. There was plenty of time. The medevac's dropping into the main, but Solar still has 80 drones throughout this. Another Queen taken out. But with it, a medevac. And even more, the Marines are going to be left behind as the Marines try to drop out. The survivors here, but the Queens should eventually be able to deal with this. Much better the Queens than the drones or even the large amount of lanes it would take. Finally, the medevac is taken out. Another army on the field, but Solar's up 30 supply. He has deflected and destroyed the attempts at multitasking out of Clem. He has not rushed up the tech tree to hide, but instead expanded outwards with the Hydras, Lings, and Banes, knowing he needs to crush this army on the field to have any chance of surviving to that hive tech. Even a Predator drone. That means on the action. Just a drone hive keyed in with the army, but you know what? If it works. No. At some point, the Terran army, the MNF, the Marines, the Mines, and the Medevacs might be enough to, the cost efficiency is absolutely ridiculous. But the Zerglings, drawing out the little mine hits, intentionally or otherwise, their Queens, double kill, and the Monarchy has been all but destroyed. 4 Queens remain, still going for the EPX, but another drop to the north. Solar, boxing out on the south. And so far, where Solar once had a 30 supply lead, now they're dead. 169 supply across the board. A very nice exchange so far. 17 more drones on the way. That will put Solar at a cool 100. Well, I think he just built a few more buildings, but it'll get close to it. His hatchery may go down, and honestly, that drone count might be a bit too high. 97 drones is where it'll cap out for now. Trying to draw it in. Widowmine shot drawn out. Another army to the north. Widowmine softening up the front line. The Marines and Marauders working forward. Hydralists continue to be enough to hold the line, but Clem just started +3 attack. Something that Solar won't be able to match until he gets the high tech done, which he just has begun. Meanwhile, rolling into it, Marines and Marauders try to target. Does he have concussive shells? He noticed it just as I did. Concussive shells on the way as the Marauders start to be added in. Widow Mine in place. Widow Mines now burrow and unburrow 30% faster as of the last patch. The buff everyone was asking for, but the Hydras not caring too much about it, and the only Widow Mine on the back line here. Gonna follow that. Meanwhile, Solar still holding strong, but that Widow Mine takes out a big chunk. Medevac's forced to pick up and get out. A precarious position, but reinforcements are on the way. Few changelings, several mines left behind to the north. Solar is sitting on 5 bases, which is a good enough economy at this stage of the game. Time is now completed. Investor is taken out by a casual mine, but a second one are already banelings to follow up. The Fumbles help to hold them down, but the Marines aren't able to get away for now. But the Hydra count has grown dramatically. 23 Hydras on the field, 94 drones behind. Solar with the economy to back it up, and also tech at the same time. Lurker range is on the way, 5 lurkers in production, but Clem is not slouching when it comes to progressing his tech as well. 4 ghosts in production simultaneously. He's nearly maxed out. 195 supply across the board. But the Marines slip in. There wasn't vision over the right side. Several drones in the hatchery to boost. The Widow Mine count growing dramatically as we get closer and closer to more Minecraft gameplay. The actual game the Hydras don't care about. But the ghosts on the front lines now. The thing is, the Hyperlink Bane army, the ghosts are good, obviously. They have a bonus to the damage against everything but the Banes, but not as good as they would be if someone had leaned further into lurkers. Pound for pound, though the ghosts are light units at 2 supply now, they're still very good to have. But spot scans forward. I don't know if those were on hold fire. Rogue may be inspiring some players lately, but drones transferring, and now the worker count is pretty much even. 81 to 82 with Solar. Now, I'm going to have that edge for a little while longer. The lurkers in position. The creep spread has been cut down dramatically. It was extending almost over half the map, and now barely outside the bases, if at all. Meanwhile, taking out the mines from the high ground. The fancy little balconies here. Adrenal Glands is now completed, and Alfonso catches an army on the field. 15 supply down, draws out a Widow Mine shot. Medevacs with nothing to heal, but the Marines slip in through the back. The vast majority of Solar's army is committed, but there's almost nothing to defend Clem's third. The SCVs are too late, and the Banelings roll into them. 15 SCVs dead, though Clem takes a hatchery in turn. The Widow Mine triggered on the Broodlings. Best case scenario there. Another shot. Draw some friendly fire in. Clem has 5 bases, so we're still sitting on hits. The incomes shooting back and forth as Clem loses both the mining and the SCVs from one of his bases. Planetary Fortress over to the 9 o'clock with the ghost in position. He actually has 14 of them. I don't know if there are any lurkers with the army, but the ghosts are falling back. I don't see any infestors nearby, but one's wandering down. The Snipes Planetary Fortress taken out almost as an afterthought. But another army to the north side. The Ghost actually moves a little bit faster. Not because of the pattern, but just unstimmering. So many medevacs. 13 medevacs with 0 liberators on the field. Medevacs can only do so much for you. And if there's one thing Solar doesn't have, it's reliable anti-drone. The ghosts line up a salvo. The Vendia scan over the top, making it almost impossible to tell what they're shooting in. I always thought that animation is a little bit too much. But I'm going, Widow Mine splash damage across the board. And who took the worst end of things? It's very hard to tell this fight. Solar losing a little bit more overall, but he has more to back it up. Cyril Fester, but it doesn't have enough energy for a bundle. The Zerglings try to come around the corner, but with this much range support, are there the Hydras he needs? Another round of Banelings. Lunges forward. Banelings around the corner. The Infestor, 75 energy on the dot now pops up, knocked down immediately. The whale mines, though, kill everything nearby. Another round of banelings is coming through. Lunges back. Solar rides out a bit of a supply lead. Knocks out an overseer. Hydra rings and veins around the corner. Some of the Marines and Marauders get behind the mineral line. A couple lurkers try to hold it down, but not trying hard enough. 64, well, he managed to burrow some lanes underneath simultaneously. Meanwhile, Clem, continuing to add more on. He's got another command center on the way, but he doesn't have so many command centers he can just be scanning across the map simultaneously. An incredibly tense game to start, and no closer to a conclusion. Though Silver ventures a small counterattack, the Banelands closing in, Middlemines managed to burrow, and that'll clean up most of the counter. Meanwhile, Hatchery, half HP, has another one over to the left side. Clem finally managed to land his command center at the 9 o'clock, though it's only an orbital command, so precarious position at best. Another sharp fester underneath. Things starting to slow down just a bit. He scanned over top of himself, looking for the infestor. Clem at 16 medevacs. Now, the medevacs for all policy might be popular, but at some points, it's just a bit too much. 32 RV supply in medevacs. Well, if anything doesn't die immediately, it will immediately be healed up. The changelings with it as well. But he just doesn't really have enough boots on the ground to crush forward. That infestor, there's multiple infestors, Snipe lined up. He's coming in again. The infestor pops up. Widowmine takes it out. Just very depressing. It's like the third time that's happened this game. Another infestor coming in. He spotted it. There's more infestors. Another one. The Widowmine's being drawn out. Clem's splash damage seems to be more effective than Solar's at taking out Clem's army. So they go so left behind. Overseer taken out. Clem has the presence of mind to immediately cloak his ghosts the moment the Overseer's taken out. And with the cloak ghost, he's able to turn the fight entirely around. Half the ghosts were taken out by the Banelings, which are more effective against them. Another counterattack. But again, just grinding through one another. But still, both sides near 200. Overlord's rallying out, so we're actually going to be awkwardly supplied like under 200 here. There's the Widowmine behind, draws the shot in. Another one, big chunk of Zerglings goes by front. Widowmine takes down its own medevac. 4 more investors on the way. But Solar just keeps replenishing his army. He's had a significant income lead for 5 minutes, and he's really starting to capitalize on it. He now has most of the bases on his side of the map, besides that one Clem's been repeatedly hitting down the center. Clem realizing that when he can no longer see his Marines under the medevacs, he may have overcommitted, and is now starting to add some Liberators into the mix. The Liberators over the top, gonna annex the base. The Queens are back! And the Hydra is gonna look to knock it down, but a lot of the drones are vulnerable. Several of them burrow, the rest there's literally not enough space. The Hydra's committed. Another base, but the Lurkers are working their way to the north. And a couple ghosts came out and brought a few more scrambling behind. Down to 5 ghosts. More Snipes dealing with it for now. Liberators trying to knock out whatever. The Queens come around the corner, the ghosts light up their shots. Widowmine spit out some of the Zerglings, not nearly enough. There is an infestor. Does Clem spot the infestor sign, the worm sign? Unclear. This is Throne of the Dooms.
Tradition lives in our passion, in our chips, made from organic wheat gold. Tostitos, tradition matters.
I got survive. Play free, Sam. I'm going to the Mind Killer. And the Mind Killer. Well, not really. It takes like 7 of them. But he pops up, and this time, well, he's what? Isn't it? He's a personal. And the Terran Spear Sucker confrontation. Solar sweeps away. Wow. Well, he was looking on the other side. The army gets caught, and there's still 12 medevacs. almost a quarter of his army supply, half of his army supply is in widow mines and medevacs, and most of the widow mines are pretty much anywhere else. So when he loses this army, he actually has very few units to fight. 16 Marines and 1 Ghost against 22 Hydras. Solar kind of sweeps the leg, holds him down, knocks him out, takes game number 1. Clem, I think it's stressed to the limit there. Solar, as Cyril's greatest stunt double, taking the punches and striking back hard. Not in the methodical, precise fashion that Cyril liked, but instead just outlasting Clem, waiting until he finally made a critical mistake, let him keep building this kind of mediocre unit composition, and then knocking him out in the process. And that means we're going to game 2 on Mothership. What a game. It was like, from the moment that Hellions noticed, or honestly, from the moment the Reaper looked at that third half tree, it was like, wait a second, that's a late speed. The board was set. And so clearly, to both sides, Clem wanted to run by with the Hellions. Alright? He was going to make, like, could see it in his eyes. Alright, by the way he was moving on his Hellions, Solar knew it as well. He handled it perfectly. Doesn't want to have too many of his drones getting charred broiled if you will. So, Solar takes one over the number 1 tag. A double Reaper build. Well, it doesn't have to be Reaper, but he is doing Reapers. The double racks at the front. And luckily for Solar, since this is a 3-player map, he is going to be sending his first Overlord in the correct direction. Just random chance there. Interesting. A moment to breathe after one of the most intense. It just kind of ended too. Like, going back and forth, the stakes being raised every time. And the reason it can end so dramatically is by the 18-minute mark, the first 3 bases pretty much are mined out. Maybe the third is still mining with a few patches, but you need those outlying bases. You're at the point of no return economically. And if you're going for like a turtle composition, like Ghosts and Liberators, or say Infestor Broodlord on the Zerg side, then losing 1 base is not critical. But those are high economy, high turnover rate compositions. The life expectancy of a Marine or a Zergling is not very high. So if you're not able to replace them, well, you're just going to have to play another game. The Reaper jumps in. He bounced the drone, and it wasn't able to save itself. That's rough. First blood goes to Clem. Won't be last. Cleans. Getting bounced around. So, with a slower third, focused on getting the lane speed. And actually, lifts up the racks to force the Overlord away from the pervert pillar. And then knocks it down with little supply block. And you don't run. Okay, I'm technically withdraw. No time for dry. I think sorry. Back up for a moment. 3 command centers. Zergling speed is done in a suspiciously fast and hidden roach warren out of Solar. It's on a map that has the add-ons and half the production exposed. So he's also getting a second gas relatively other. Sorry, let me rephrase that. This feels suspicious, which I already said, but I don't think it's a roach all in. But enough sloaches to make Clem think twice. and help deal with any of the aliens. That's 5 of them. 6. More is an all in. He's at 35 rounds. Wow, Benedict. 8. The Queens. Towing the line of the creep here. And both in the orange. The roaches are popping out though. The Queens will be saved, and here comes Solar. Once again, Clem did not go for a Banshee to start, which is, I mean, not surprising considering. But Clem, 2 bunkers on the way. Batten down the hatches. The Zerg are coming. And with no Banshee and no air support, well, the Banshee's on the way. It's still a long way out, though. There will be plenty of time to break through the front line here. Will Solar get enough damage done to either win the game or take a significant advantage? Or will Clem hold? Unleashes the corrosive virus. Gonna knock out the reactors. Knock it on the door. Right? There's only limited time. Alright, the Ravagers working their way through. Karna's trying to snipe the SCVs on the back line. And Mr. Zergachev, tear down this wall. Right? The wall itself will abandon ship. 2 bunkers done. Another scattering corrosive ball will take out 1. The Banshee adding a lot of damage. The SCVs pulled off the line. Many of them starting to die. Shotgun blast a corrosive vial, knocking out so much of the economy. But the Ravagers are thinning out. The SCVs pulled back and forth, Clem, manipulating them so they don't take too much fire. 17 SCVs dead is a whole lot of damage, but it's not critical. He has 3 command centers. He's only down 6 workers, and now there's Banshees in the sky. The last Ravager will be taken down, chased by the Hellions. The Hellions themselves, Clem marching across the map, but Silver actually just kept building Zerglings. He might be able to take out this ground army and punish Clem's overcommitment. Clem was just assuming that Solar would build drones behind this, but Solar, whether by accident or by intent, or maybe both, ended up building enough Zerglings in order to take out all but a few HP on a Hellion of the ground army. So that opens up a little more. Wait, catch him on the way back. The Hellion, the Zergling. I don't know. I think one more hit would have done it for the repair. I've seen some things. What did you see? They were like angry dogs.
Telescopic mascara's tiny brush scrubs every lash for easy length every time.
GFL2 is a game that combines the strategic complexity of turn-based squad combat with rich character progression through its wide-cast units, also known as T-Dolls. And I'm not lying at all when I say the visual design of these dolls, from their intricately designed costumes all the way to the detailed rendering of their feet, is some of the craziest stuff in the industry. You don't have to take my word for it. One look at the game's absurdly detailed dormitory system, complete with its unique and, at times, questionable post system, live, click-based interaction with its
Sorry. Got 2 Banshees and Solar with a Spire on the way. If you can get to Bluetooth, Solar reset the stim. He delayed the upgrade significantly, but of course he delayed his own upgrades even more dramatically. He's just now catching up economically because a Terran with 3 command centers, a mule is worth approximately 5 SCVs mine, each one. So with 3 command centers, even being down 15 workers means that mineral income is only marginally in Solar's favor, only while he has those 3 bases. So Banshee's coming in with the Queens. Not happy to see him. Banshee built a 3rd Banshee to block out the other base. But through all the fire and fury, Solar has been able to stabilize Clem has comfortably taken his third. He built up his production. And I will say, as a Zerg in this position, it's uncomfortable. You are reliant on knocking out the next push. And here's the thing, Clem doesn't even need to do well with the next push. He just needs to do okay. He needs to do enough to limit Solar's economy, because now Clem has the economy he needs. 61 SCVs, he has the production, he's got one on the way. Solar's just building his Evo chambers. So he must hold this attack, and the next, and the next. Main speed is on the way. The Mutas are flying across the map. We come back to defend. I don't know if it's worth it. For Marines, even without combat sheet. I don't think Clem forgot. I think he just didn't have the tech labs. Goes in completely catching him off guard. The Mutas might be enough to turn it around. The army's actually coming back home. Gonna save the tanks as well. Managed to get a turret up in the main. Could possibly intercept the medevacs. Coming around to the third. And only killing a couple SCVs. So, Solar. Drilling ball is now on the way. Was it enough? 2-2 has already begun. Clem knows his advantages now. If he just stays the course, he's ahead. If he tries a big attack and it doesn't work, that's how Solar drags himself back into this. Mutas can't attack into missile turrets, marines, and mines. They thrive on weak points, on gaps in the defenses. If there are no gaps, Thor, 2 Thors. No, back to 1 Thors. I don't know. A couple little mines. I don't know why I thought there were 2 Thors. Reading biases on her. Marines getting caught. Solar trying not to waste the banelings. Has quite a kerfuffle there to deal with it. Another 3 racks on the way. I'm going to the Octo racks. Full production with the Mutas. A single Widow Mine in the corner. Does he's not going to sacrifice any, but the army's coming across the map. Solar has built up admirably. But the Queens got out in front. Clem has the supply lead. There are 67 Marines against 20 Mutas and 30 Zerglings. The mainline count is pretty high. Solar managed to finish 1-1. The Mutas, for the most part, have stayed together. He's going to need everything. And he needs to hit before Clem finishes his 2-2 upgrades. Otherwise, it might be for naught either way. Thor moving up. That backbone of the defense against the Mutalisks. 2-2 upgrades for Clem. He's maxed out. Oh, look at that spread. I can't believe it's not public. Siege tanks, Widowman moving forward. Trying to pick off, but Clem has enough Marines to cover every angle. Chasing down the Mutas. More banelings coming up, but the siege tanks themselves taking the damage. Banelings rolling in. The Mutas looking for an opportunity, but denied at every turn. Marines out in front, but the Banshees are still alive. Hellbat joined in. I think it's that one Hellion from earlier. He'll probably die on the same field it fought before. Some more Queens, Banelings rolling through, but the Marines are far too much. And Mutas trying to get the damage done. Eats a Widowmine hit. GG. For Solar unable to claw it back. The Mutas, not enough. He didn't get enough done with the initial attack. Clem knew his advantages, and he pressed them for all their worth. The Clempire strikes back. It was a good attempt. I think there was a real chance. Solar was a bit, he wasn't very hasty. And on some occasions it pays not to be hasty. But if he had had a little bit more motivation to break through it. So the reason you don't want that is you just want him to make a mistake. You want him to go overcommit. I don't think Solo was anticipating the Banshee quite as quick. But if he knew the Banshee was on the way, you try to punch through and get in and break down the bunkers and get as much damage as you can. But he was held back for long enough that Clem was able to stabilize pretty easily. All right, game 3. Overcome. Following the steps in almost exact map layout of Cloud Kingdom and Eternal Empire, give you the most modern, the Old Republic. Solar has been doing kind of a mix. He manipulates the amount of drones. It's a fancy way of saying it changes the amount of drones and gas, depending on whether he thinks he can take a quick better. So sometimes you just delay getting Zergling speed to have that extra 100 minerals to get the third base. Like 2 out of 3 gas, you rally it over. Making sure he has those minerals when he needs them. Which is as soon as possible, Hawkins. Just like I need likes and subscribes. SCV scouts the timing. Did the drone spot it? Or is he just not? He spotted it now. SCV there to block the third. Making sure Solar can't take it easily. Drone gonna take issue with it. I'm gonna play a ring around the fancy little spiral thingy here, / indicator of where the base is supposed to be. But he's gonna physically block. So because a gas geyser is slightly larger, it goes over the extractor refinery. It goes over the gas geyser. Having a unit right next to it physically blocks it from building, which can keep you from saving the drone inside gas geyser. Hey, no, don't do it. Charlotte ain't supported it. And it's down. Yeah, it's the Zerg. The Zerglings just get in. We'll delay the fact. No, he didn't. Well, he came back to delay the reactor landing on the add-on, but actually missed that opportunity. It's 2 SCVs. Clem lifted up his factory barracks at the most inopportune time. But Solar didn't quite notice. The Zerglings actually get in, and, well, Clem wasn't locked in here with him. Is how it ends up. Kills a couple SCVs, which is nice, but he cleans them up quickly. And now the Hellions are coming across the mountain. Armoring is a Hellbat push. He's on 2 bases. This is an all-out Hellbat push. Things about to get hot and heavy. He did kill the initial lings, which reduces the chances of this being scouted early. The Overlord is nowhere close to being there. So, there's another, oh wow, the fancy approach. Right in the center. But seeing Hellions is no surprise. Right? Hellions and Reapers are a part of every balanced breakfast. The only thing that would give this away is the medevacs. And the Queens. Just dealing with what they think is a normal push, but wait. Oh no, up close. Is it getting hot here? Yes, they're gonna take out all our drones, Brenda. Now run! So, poor Queen, but with no energy for transfuse, trying to take out the medevac. 1 Queen incinerated. Another one about to be immolated. The economy ready to be cauterized. And, well, this game looking more one-sided than a movie strip right now. As Flem just walks up, burninates across the countryside, claims 2Gs, refuses to elaborate further, and we're headed to match point. Solar just kind of dies. Begging the question of why we don't do that more often. But I don't even know exactly why that was. I guess the slight delay, you have no energy for transfuse. If you know it's coming, then you save up energy, you consolidate the queens. But that felt just trust me, alright? That's not something you could do every game. Somehow Clem made it look absolutely overpowered there, but now we go to Andromeda. Which with those fancy tactical jumps, I guess we get to another galaxy. Well, Solar just kind of dies. It's hopefully not foreshadowed, but this time around, I'm picking a very strong early 2 base. Because Solar has been cutting a few corners. And sometimes that leaves you without net. Match first. Also, that is one of the most macro-oriented maps of the kind of expanded map pool. Literally, clearly a spiritual successor to some of the most late game, like easy to defend 4-base maps. Kind of a strategical move out of Khan, which shouldn't be surprising considering he's literally the best Terran in the world and arguably one of the best Protoss as well. Yeah, but is he going to be a real player until he plays Zerg? Wow, you put that on it. So we occasionally get the Raynor versus Clem reverse race. I believe Raynor took the last one as Terran against Mountain Sword. But you can check that out from a couple months ago. Well, I had no further commentary for this. There wasn't much to expand on besides Clem just killing him with a hellback timing, which I held back on being disapproving of, because when Clem does hellback timings, they look good. When anybody else does them, they look like, why are you throwing the game? Like that whole commitment. The pervert, hey, doesn't even bother with the pervert pillar, trying to sneak around. The Overlord, well, Overlord somehow outmaneuvers the Marines, slaloming like a professional skier in a whale suit. Hey. Somehow escapes over to the literal space. Kind of Republic planet here, since they asked what she was really cool. That's a detail. The parts of the map that pro gamers will literally never see, partially because they're graphic settings, and partially because they'll never spend more than, like, let's go to the Clem cam. That's it, be ready. Literally microing his SCVs onto the closed patches at both bases to get that single-digit % mineral boost. The Zerglings trying to claw the Reapers and that is a very quick lair. That is a very quick lair. Could be done in 4 minutes. Please spot it. Did not see it. The third base isn't played by any means. Banshee's speed is on the way. The hiker is slapped. It's just an all-out nidus. A nidus all in. All out, all in. The triple friend about the great spread. So Solar's trying to sell it. The great.
Beautiful. Kate's good.
Welcome to Star Trek Fleet Command. In this game, you will have to make important strategic decisions that impact your gameplay and player experience. Will you focus on upgrading your warp engines to reach star systems and planets unknown? Will you prioritize upgrading your armaments to deal with threats that might arise? Or will you focus on your evasive route and build impenetrable shields so you can wander the vast galaxy in peace? Choose wisely and become the captain of your own destiny in Star Trek Fleet Command.
I see you guys all the time, but they totally fake. Whenever I download them, they tell you nothing like that. That's because you downloaded the wrong one. The real game is called Glassfields, and you do just like those fake guys. I don't believe you. You know, I promise. I'll prove it to you. Right, it doesn't look like the ads. Okay, there's at least 67 reviews coming, so I need that mini gun upgrade. For that, let's get a bit more sense. That should be enough. Come on, it's perfect. Okay, we can't let our friend drown here, but there's a big people coming in the background. Let me try and take him out here. Come on. No, I lost him on my troops. Okay, whatever. Let's get some more. Keep on shooting, but we almost got our friend. But the bigger movements coming. I lost him on my troops. I gotta take out the boss. Come on, please, no.
Tap the screen to play Last Four Survival for free now.
Yeah, 34 drones. He's sending some of his drones to the third. Like, they're naturally. But the third lane actually just had it in. There's only two that thing's here again. Went in the midst. He had Marines spotting the end of his base. But so you don't know what the things. And now the Titans. What is that? The Twins got fired into the night another. And Clem, the bait and switch. Oh, it's time. He's sending the Marines back, but it's already too late. Waiter. Everything that is like gets a spray. Okay, and he's going, if he was going for Cloaker, I don't think it'd be better, but Hyperfly Brothers is done slapping down the Tech Lab Berserkers at the National of the Queens. Pretty much the only unit here. But, well, wait a second. The SCVs are pulling out the lines. And there's really only Banshees and Hellions, neither of which are great against Queens. And now the Queens have turned this into a Zerg base. The creep is running across the field. The units are being slaughtered the moment they come out of the production facilities. There's more than enough enemy this time, Clem. The boys are home. The Banshees are almost too fast for their own good. He's trying to repair them, but the SCVs are really strong things. Clem is running out of money as well. The Queens are marching down to the high ground. Take out the reactor. Take out the depots. The Zerglings are tearing apart the Terran buildings. And the transfuse is coming through. A Liberator siege is up. Banshee, take it down. And the Queens will reign supreme. Well, that Liberator actually is out healing everything here. But he's building a spine from Earth Spain. And Clem, with his main base, takes out from under him. The beauty of this is he knew that was a possibility. If he had the Marines in position, then very likely this would have been either mitigated or completely shut down. But Solar came in literally in perfect timing with just enough Zerglings to unplan it. He pulled away the Marines, and by the time they came back, it was a beautiful cheese out of Solar. One of the sharpest I've seen in a while. Was for about one game since Clem just did that hellbat on it. But And that brings us to game 5. Solar bringing the number 1 champion to the limit and maybe beyond as we go into satellite years. So, we've seen the full-on macro brawl. We've seen some delectable cheeses. In fact, 3 games in a row of cheese. Solar did the Roach all in. That didn't get enough done. Clem, a full-on held that all in. Then Solar strikes back with the game-ending Nidus. Now, to conclude on this episode of Star, welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2. This map, another one of our very macro maps. We've already seen a surprising amount of games. Players seem this is one of the most inoffensive of the expanded map pool. Seems like players have settled on it as a relatively safe map. It'll be interesting to see. We don't yet have the results of the map contest. The top 2 that you guys voted on, you guys voted, right? But will be in the latter map pool, which means they are pretty much guaranteed to be in tournaments. The community organizers have expanded the map pool with a lot of the map contest stuff, the finals, which I feel is something we should have been doing for years, including satellite years, but better late than that. What a topsy-turvy series. The beauty of it is it wasn't. Now, Clem's all in completely blindsided Solar. He was not anywhere close to ready for it. Whereas Clem was almost anticipating that level of aggression out of Solar. But it still worked because of how well executed it was. Reaper dancing with the Zerglings until the Queen comes and puts a stomp to it. Or at least discourages the Reaper for a while. That's really most of what it does. Starport on the way. The Destiny Cloud Biz build, the Varix Factory Starport once again. Can we just go through the good old fashioned Pokemon this time? I don't think we've seen a single